Let's take a few minutes to practice some of the mapping content we're going to need to know for the CRCT. This time, let's do the Middle East. So here we have a political map of Southwest Asia. There's a lot of countries on this map, so it looks a little bit daunting. Don't worry, we've got some strategies that will help you to remember which one is which. We're going to start by picking out 3 anchor countries. These are going to be 3 of the biggest countries in the area. Once we memorize those 3 countries, then we're going to learn all the rest of the countries simply by knowing where they are in relation to our 3 anchor countries. Our first anchor country is this one right here. This, of course, is Saudi Arabia. You'll see it's the biggest feature on the Arabian Peninsula. You'll see that the Arabian Peninsula has 3 sides that have water on them. Our next anchor is this one right here. This is our next anchor country. That is Iran. And to the northwest of Iran, we will find our next anchor country. This right here is the country of Turkey. Now, Turkey we can know because it borders Europe. It is a peninsula in and of itself. Fairly large feature right there. All right, now, these are our 3 anchor countries. You're going to need to memorize these 3. They're not hard, though. They're not hard because they're big and they're distinct. But you'll need to memorize these 3 countries, and then each of our other countries we will relate to these 3. Now this country here, this is just to the east of Iran. This is one that you should know because U.S. forces have been fighting there since 2001. This, of course, is Afghanistan. Now, in between Turkey and Saudi Arabia and to the west of Iran, we have another country that we should know pretty well in the United States, and that, of course, is Iraq. We've had American service members fighting in Iraq since 2003. In between Iraq and Turkey, we have the country of Syria. And to the south of Syria and in between Syria and Saudi Arabia, we have the country of Jordan. Next up is the small country of Kuwait. You'll remember that Kuwait was the center point of the Persian Gulf War. The U.S. coalition went into Kuwait to evict Iraqi forces. And over by Syria here, bordering the Mediterranean Sea, we will find the narrow country of Lebanon. And just to the south of Lebanon, we have Israel. Israel, you'll notice, is also another fairly long and narrow country. Now, we have some countries on this map that are not part of our Southwest Asia standards, but since they are still countries that we need to know as part of our 7th grade standards this year, we are including them on this particular map review. Over here, part of our Africa standards, we have Egypt. Egypt forms the northeastern corner, per se, of Africa, and you'll see that it does border Israel. And over to the far east of our map, we'll find another country. Now, some of my students say that this country looks like a dinosaur. I'm not sure about that, but if that's a way that you can remember that, then good. That happens to be Pakistan. Pakistan is in our Southern and Eastern Asia standards, and it is south of Afghanistan and just to the northwest of India. Now, you may have noticed that there's a couple of spots over here next to Israel that we haven't labeled yet. Now, those are some important areas, so we'll need to make sure that we learn those. So we're going to zoom in on this part of the map. Okay, here we have Israel, and we've got these 2 areas, one on either side of Israel. These are called traditionally the occupied territories. Largely because these were occupied by Israel for many years following Israeli victories in various Arab-Israeli wars. Those are the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The West Bank is called the West Bank because it is on the West Bank, the western side of the Jordan River. The Gaza Strip is, well, it's called a strip because if you look real closely on a close-up shot of a map, it's actually a very narrow, fairly small strip of land in between Israel and Egypt. Now, both of these areas are more or less controlled by the Palestinian Authority. They are largely autonomous, although Israel does still exert a certain amount of control over these areas. They are largely controlled by elected Palestinian governments. And so, although we can't technically call them countries right now, they do provide some level of self-government for the Palestinian people. So there you have it, your political features of Southwest Asia. Not bad. So let's spend a few minutes learning some of the physical features. Okay, we're going to start by our study of the physical features of the Middle East by looking at the major water features. Now let's start over here by looking at the Red Sea. You'll notice that the Red Sea is in between the Arabian Peninsula and Africa. Also in between Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Now, a lot of people remember the Red Sea from the biblical story of Moses and the parting of the Red Sea. You'll remember that in that story, Moses and the Israelites were escaping from Egypt. When that happened, Egypt, of course, is right there on the map. So that might be one way that some people will choose to remember the location of the Red Sea being in between Egypt and the Arabian Peninsula. Now, to the southeast of the Arabian Peninsula, we'll find the Arabian Sea, appropriately named. The Arabian Sea connects this region with the Indian Ocean, which is to the south. And in between the Arabian Peninsula and Iran, we'll find a body of water called the Persian Gulf. Now, some people remember the Persian Gulf because of the Persian Gulf War, and you'll see that the Persian Gulf touches Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Iraq. All three of those countries were central to the Persian Gulf War. Some people remember that this is called the Persian Gulf because Iran used to be called Persia, and Iran forms the northern side of the Persian Gulf. Now let's take a look at some of our rivers on this map. Let's look over here in between Israel and Jordan. We'll find the appropriately named Jordan River. We'll find going through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, another really important river. This one is the Euphrates River. Now, the Euphrates River is very frequently referred to by mentioning it as one of a pair of rivers. We usually talk about the Euphrates River and this other river to the northeast of that is the Tigris River. The Euphrates and the Tigris are very important to ancient history because they formed sort of the cradle of civilization back in the days of the Babylonians. In more recent history, they're very important because they are major centers of civilization in Iraq. But one thing that's tricky about these two, it's very easy to mix them up. It's hard to remember sometimes which one is which. Is it the Euphrates to the west and the Tigris to the east, or is it the other way around? Well, I've come up with one way to remember this. Now, you'll notice that the Euphrates River is the one that's toward the west, the one that's a little bit closer to Europe. Now, Europe starts with EU. Euphrates also starts with EU. So that's how I remember that the Euphrates is the one to the west and the Tigris is the one to the east. But yeah, use whatever method works for you. That one I happen to like. Now, there's some other bodies of water that we'll need to make note of that are on this map. They're also very important to know. Let's look over here at the entryway to the Persian Gulf. There you'll find this narrow passage, or what we call a choke point. That is the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is very important in current times because, well, most of you will remember that a large portion of the world's oil is shipped out of the Persian Gulf. And it comes out of the Persian Gulf on tanker ships. Well, because it goes to this narrow choke point called the Strait of Hormuz, it would be relatively easy for someone who has bad intentions to disrupt a large part of the world's oil supply simply by somehow blocking that narrow waterway. At times, people have accused Iran of wanting to flex its political muscle by somehow shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. If they were to do that with force or by other means, that would have a substantial economic impact on the world. So the Strait of Hormuz is an important choke point between the Arabian Sea and the Persian Gulf. Now, another important strategic point as far as world trade is concerned, we'll find over here in Egypt. That is the Suez Canal right there, folks. And the Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea and effectively Europe by water to Asia. Because of the Suez Canal, ships can move in between the Indian Ocean by way of the Arabian Sea and the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea and Europe. So that is a major point of commerce for those two areas, and has in fact been the source of at least one war. So there you have it, our maps of the Middle East. Hope you've studied them well, and well, good luck on the CRCT.